You are listening to the People Centric Podcast, where we talk through the toughest challenges that people face at work and give practical advice to fixing those challenges. Thanks for joining our movement to create workplaces that are happier, healthier, aligned, and empowered by putting people at the center of all that we do.
Hey, People Centric leaders, this is Stephanie Anderson coming at you with another episode of the People Centric Podcast. I don't know why I just sounded like a 90s radio DJ, but that's what came out today.
Yeah.
So
I liked it. It reminds me of, when I was a kid and we would make our own recordings of radio shows on cassette tapes.
Well, thank you guys. This is the encouragement that I needed for continual use of my radio DJ voice. So you can hear it with me today if you start recognizing those voices. I've got Bethany Tapp and Diana Royalty on the podcast with me today. And I think we've got a fun topic for us to dive into. And this was one we started having really, really good conversation about. And we just said, okay, we need to hit record and keep this going. But Diana brought up this topic, and it's career truths that no one tells you. And, this isn't our first rodeo for us three on the podcast today. And so we quickly put together a list of some things that we kind of learned in the school of hard knocks, growing up in our careers, growing in our industries, our expertise, our skills. And so we thought we would talk about some of those today, and hopefully provide some helpful insight or advice for those of you who are growing in your career, or maybe you're facing some disappointment about where your career is at right now, and maybe this will be a little bit of a commiseration, but maybe also help give you some language to say, okay, how do I keep going if work has disappointed me or something has happened and no one prepared me for this? How do we get through it? So I will just kick us off maybe with one that we all agreed on very quickly, which is career paths aren't always linear. I know for me in particular, especially like the university I went to and how the business department would talk about things, it felt very formulaic, right? Like you go to college and you study hard and you get the good grades and then you'll get the job. And then you show up at the job and you work really hard and you show them how smart you are, and then you'll get the promotion. And then after that promotion, you keep, and it just cycles and cycles until I guess you're running the company someday. I don't know. They never clearly defined the end point of just like ultimate success. You're completely fulfilled, and you'll just keep moving up the ladder in this very linear fashion. And wow, that's not true.
So not true. Guys, my degree is in child and family education. That's my undergrad. I went later and got a master's degree in business, but I didn't start out where I ended up. And I don't even know if I'm done ending up. You know what I mean?
What's next? You could be an astronaut. Why not?
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe I'll go get my doctorate of business. Be a business doctor.
Fancy.
I'm not doing that.
That's kind of what we are. We're like business doctors. So.
We are business doctors. I see the credentials. But I mean, I didn't start out thinking I was going to end up here, and my career kind of went backwards and forwards. And, I took a step back at points and I took giant leaps forward at points. And it definitely wasn't linear. I don't know if it was a roller coaster, but it was definitely, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It was around the block a few times. It was not linear.
I would agree with that of I've worked in multiple different industries, lots of different levels of position, everything from obviously front line. I was an assistant at one point. I was on the executive team at a company, just every piece in between there. And yeah, it's definitely not linear. And like the pay isn't always linear either. I think that's another hard truth with the like career path part is like just because, you were getting paid to do this here somewhere doesn't mean that every next step is going to be up. And I mean, if that's happening, that's awesome. Great. And I think you should be compensated more as you build your skills and have more experience in your career. But yeah, it's a little more windy, more of a tango, one step forward, two steps to the side and around, and then somebody dips you, and then you got to keep going and refine your balance and do all of that.
Unless you are a doctor, it's pretty linear, I feel like, maybe.
Yeah.
But I'm not a doctor, so I guess I don't really know, but I imagine it seems a little more linear. I don't know.
I agree. Yeah. I
clear
think there are
path.
some careers that are like a little more naturally set up that way, or like, education, I think is another one. Like if you go to school to become a teacher, then you probably became a teacher. But then I also see like a lot of doctors that are like have these crazy side hustle businesses, or yeah, teachers who then do something completely different over the summers and they probably didn't imagine
Switching,
that.
yeah. Yeah, the thing I think about with this is like career paths aren't always linear, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that the thing about it is, if you just know that going in that, I started in content marketing whenever I first started my career, and I did not really know where I was going to end up. I just kind of thought like probably like, I don't know, advertising in general, like maybe that's going to be what I do. And I think every time, and then I ended up in recruiting for a university, and then I ended up at People Centric, and it's like they were all like very different jobs in lots of ways. But I think that with each of those positions that I've been in, like I've learned something new about myself and the things that I'm good at and the things that I'm not good at and the things that I really like and the things that I don't really like. And so I think that like knowing that going in is really beneficial, because then it's just kind of like, okay, I'm going to like use this as an opportunity to learn a little bit more about myself. And yeah, and I think that that's kind of the cool part about it too.
Totally. Yeah, totally agree with that. Okay.
Okay.
Who wants to
Everyone
pick the
here is
next
saying
one?
it's fine.
Yes, it is. You're gonna be all right. Yeah, keep going. Okay. We kind of made a list here. Do you guys want me to pick another one? Did anybody have a hot one? Okay, here's one. You won't always love your dream job. And I think this is a tough pill to swallow some days. That like you can be doing something you really love that is very fulfilling to you in so many ways and still feel burnt out sometimes, get frustrated with people or situations and like question yourself. Like I think there is a little bit of this myth that like once you discover this magical career purpose for yourself, that then it's just like easy breezy, smooth sailing from there. You're going to just experience fulfillment. And that if all of a sudden one day you're not feeling great about it, then like, sorry, the magic's gone. It's not your dream job anymore. You got to figure out another one. And I think that is just such a nasty lie. It's such a nasty lie. And I think it makes a lot of people feel like insecure about themselves and to distrust like their own intuition or other people. Like I I always think of it this way for myself is like I love challenging work. And that is very motivating to me if my work is challenging. And so there are going to be days like it feels really hard. And I want to grow. And so I'm also not only picking work that's challenging, but then I'm challenging myself on top of that. So when I combine those two things, that means that there's going to be some days where I am over challenged in my job, or it feels really frustrating because I can't do something, or something that I worked really hard on breaks. So yeah, what how do you guys experience that?
Yeah. I mean, I will say that I don't know that I ever had like a dream job, but I think that I am doing work that I really love, and then I'm doing it with people that I really enjoy, and I still have bad days. Like that, I love what we do. believe in what we do. I love working with you guys. And I still, man, Tuesday, I had a bad day. I had a real, real bad day. And I didn't enjoy that day. But you know what I did? I came back to work Wednesday and I was like, I'm going to shake it off. It's going to be fine. And Wednesday was a better day, and Thursday's been a great day. So I think it's just, you have to remember that no matter what you're doing, you're going to have bad spells. That's true with anything, right? Like that'd be like saying, oh, my marriage is completely perfect and I never, ever get mad at my husband and we're never frustrated and there's never any problems ever. That's completely crazy. You love your husband. You picked that husband. He's the best husband, but you still have to work at things. And there are still days where it's like, you are a weird husband and I am not pleased with you today, right? Like you're not my thing today. There's still those days. And I think that happens at work too, but we've built this up in our head that like work will be perfect because it's the dream job. And the dream job is still a job. And I think that's what we have to remember is like, there's still days.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, I can't help but think there's always, you think about people who have these like, I don't know what the world would consider it's like dream jobs. So like you think about the athletes and the, actresses and the whatever, and you're like, man, we idealize like their lives too, but also we also see and hear many of them talk about like, gosh, this is really hard, or I don't like this part of having this level of fame or money or whatever. Like it's not always fulfilling, or it's stressful because I can't go anywhere, or I have to maintain like this level of athleticism or whatever fitness to be able to keep my job literally and I'm aging, and it's like all of those different things. And so yeah, there's no dream job is going to be perfect. And on the flip side, I think to maybe talk about what we just said a little bit differently too is like, I think it's also okay to recognize that if you are in your dream job and like sometimes it's okay to admit that like maybe you didn't know what it was gonna really look like too, and to say like, "Oh, this isn't what I thought it was gonna be." And if you do need to make a change for yourself, that like that's not necessarily a failure. It was just like I just didn't know that because I haven't been in that position before. I didn't see that. As long as you're going eyes wide open to what you all said to say like, if I go do something else, I'm not chasing perfection. There will be things in that role that I don't necessarily love either because nothing's going to be perfect. And so I think that's kind of like the nuance to it too that I would throw in as well.
Oh, that's so well said. And chasing perfection. Oof. Yeah, I think like especially for those of us who grew up in like the world of like, oh, you have to have this super significant purpose and then you get attached to this dream job and your career, then some suddenly mentally becomes like who you are and what happens. And so everything has to go perfectly or you're failing or you did something wrong. Like, yeah, that was such a good truth and a kind way to say it, Bethany, of like, yeah, like I would say at this point, like in my life, honestly, like I've already worked like two dream jobs for me of like things that I had really thought about doing, that I was really curious in doing, that I believed would make an impact and do great things. I mean, one of them I'm doing now, but I mean, I look back and I will joke to people that I like have already done one of my dream jobs. Like I got to run like and work with global women's empowerment and do some of those things. And that was amazing. It was also really, really hard. And there was a moment where I did decide to like step away from that and go for a new dream and do that. So that was so well said. Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
not going
and
to
I
be
like what
perfect because nothing is.
yeah, what you said is basically like you could have more than one dream too, and
Yeah.
that's cool.
It is. It is. One of my favorite sayings, I don't know who said it, but it's this idea like life is very short, right? And we hear all the time, life's so short, you got to take the most every moment, but also hopefully life is really long. And hopefully you get to do many things that you're passionate about. And so like if this ain't it right now, just keep going. Like maybe it's just a bad day, maybe it's just a bad week, but it's not a bad life. You can dream another dream, do something else. Um, okay, one that you brought up, Bethany, that I thought was so good. So again, truth no one tells you about work is you have to set your own boundaries and manage your own time. Nobody else is going to do that for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, I feel like, something in like my first career right out of college. Quickly, I was like, whoa, I could work like all the time. Not necessarily because I was happy doing it, but because it felt like I had to. Like there was always things to do. There was always a list of things. There was like, I could keep sending emails and checking my email all the time. It doesn't matter, whatever. And I think I just quickly realized like, oh yeah, like nobody else is going to turn that off for me. Like I have to do that. So if I don't set boundaries, I have nobody else to blame but myself. And so if I want to be really miserable, then I can keep doing this, or I can say, hey, this is when you need to like stop doing stuff, or here's how you could like manage your time a little bit differently. And like I think we flex and flow. I don't think that I've perfected that by any means. When you're in different jobs, that like that changes too. Um, but I just think that that was one of the things that I just nobody told me going into my career, that I was like, oh no, I have to do that because nobody's gonna tell me. With that too, I think nobody's gonna tell me when to take vacation, right? Like nobody's gonna tell me when to take time off. Like that is my responsibility to do. And so if you're not doing that, I would say like plan that time off, because most bosses, some bosses are really nice. Diana's told me that before. Like you should take some time off.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah, I love that you said that. And it's funny because I hadn't totally thought about it as a learning moment for people, but I think it's true. I think it's totally true. When I started working, I had a shift. And during that shift, I had these boxes to check, right? I worked at a video store. That's how old I am. And it was like, put the movies away, check out customers, empty these things, right? Take out the trash. There was a checklist. And when those things were done, it was done. And then my shift was over and I went home. And then when you get into like the 8 to 5, here's your job description. There is no list of things for you to check off. They're going to keep constantly coming, right? And then you have to learn how to like project manage that. And you have to learn how to fit in, the daily responsibilities with the quarterly responsibilities, with the side projects, with the clients. And it gets all confusing and crazy. And I could spend 100% of my time talking to clients and then not check my email. And so you have to like figure out how to balance all of those things. And nobody helps you do that. Nobody helps you figure that out. You have to figure out the systems that work for you in the order that works for you, and still be very clear about, I'm going to go home at this time roughly every day. And like, I'm going to turn off at these times. And like you said, Bethany, I'm going to go take this vacation, and understand that it's just got to be okay without me, even though you feel really responsible for some of that stuff.
For sure. Yeah, and as we've been talking, it makes me wonder like if there's somebody out there who's like, but I think work should do that for you, and leaders should care and set those expectations, and work should be healthier, or like I can't remember which European country just like put into effect that like now legally employees do not have to respond to work calls and emails outside of working hours. And while, yes, I think that's a beautiful vision of like that your leaders would just help you with all of that. When we were talking about this in advance of recording, we all kind of agreed like you actually kind of don't want them to do that, because they are going to come up with something that is positive for as many people as possible. I think, like, if they're doing it with really good intent, it's as positive for as many people as possible, but it also really keeps in mind like what the company needs from an employee. And unfortunately does not take into consideration maybe what you need from your job right now or what boundaries are healthy for you. And, saying it that way of like what works well for most people, like they know and leaders know when they make these type of policies, like it's not going to fit for everybody. And so I think you don't really want your job doing that for you. You want to be able to define that for yourself and have that freedom and flexibility. And, if your company has policies that are not supportive of you, just like go talk to your manager about it. But one that always sticks up to me is so many people have their work email on their phone. I think a lot of people have an email app on their phone. A lot of people have email notifications turned on. And this is one that I will just say personally, I don't think I've had email notifications turned on for my phone for like 10 years. Number one, it's super distracting for me to get a notification. So I was like, I can't handle all of this. So I turned it off. But I've talked to so many friends who, when they're struggling with like this like balance and integration and how they're managing their time and where they have some boundaries for their personal lives, that then all of them are like getting email notifications all day long. And they're like, well, my boss emails me in the middle of the night. And I'm like, well, maybe that's what works for them. But like, unless they've explicitly told you, you have to respond to my emails as I send them. And you must do that right in the moment and pick up your phone and do that from wherever you are in the world. Like, I've never seen an HR manual that says you have to have email notifications turned on for your phone. And like you don't want them making rules like that.
Yeah. And I would say that I think the three of us all produce a similar amount of work. We're all getting things out and doing things and taking care of stuff. And the three of us have very different ways of managing how that works.
Oh, totally.
I
Totally.
have email notifications. I love them. I use them. They keep me sane.
that.
Like I'm just saying, we all do the things and we all get them done and we output a lot of work. We all manage it very differently. And so I think it's important for you to really truly figure out what works for you and not go by what works for somebody else.
Right. Totally. Yep.
Yeah, which is why we don't have a rule about email notifications, right?
Totally. Totally.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because what
You
works
guys
for
would hate
Diana
email
would drive me insane.
Exactly. You would
Yep.
hate it. Yeah.
I did for like the 10 seconds I had it on. I was like, this is the worst.
I do that.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Okay, another one I feel like we could hit probably pretty quickly is this like CEO executive myth that like your CEOs and executives don't know everything. They may not know a lot of things. And like that's okay. There is just no like CEO formula myth. Nobody arrives, but I think that's just like a truth no one talks about because those executive level jobs get propped up and put on such huge pedestals in companies that I know I experienced this when I worked at a large company for the first time and got to have some like interaction with our like executive leadership team. And I was like, they don't know what we're going to do. Like it was like a meeting where we were talking about like a tactical thing and like they didn't have the answers. And I like walked out of the room and looked at my boss and I was like, they didn't know. I thought we were going to these meetings for the answers. Like that's why we were pulling them in because they're the almighty knowing executives. And she was like, nah, man, we're making this all up as we go. Like we have the meeting to figure it out. So I feel like that is a truth that no one tells you is like all leaders are just human beings too. And they're trying to just like do their best work and do the right things, but no, they don't know everything.
Yeah. I think I learned this much later than I probably should have. But still, I was working at People Centric and I was going into meetings with executives and I was intimidated by it. And I was like, these people are smart. They have built companies. They have millions of dollars in their budget lines. Like why did they hire us to talk to them? Like maybe I shouldn't be the one speaking about this. Like it's intimidating to go into a room filled with C-suite people and be a not C-suite person or be a normal person, being a frontline employee and just be like, okay, well, let's talk about it, right? Let's unpack it. Let's look at it. And then I realized slowly over time, all of those executives were not any smarter than me. They maybe had a few more years on me. They maybe had experiences I didn't have or whatever, but like I never ran into someone who I was like, that dude is 1,000% smarter than me. It just didn't happen. Right. And I still haven't had that experience. I haven't run into someone that's like above and beyond brilliant or super crazy innovative and just like doing all of the right things. I think they really, I've just run into them as they're like just humans that are brave enough to take the leap. And then once they get there, they kind of surround themselves with smart people and they, they're working towards all the same things that we're always working towards. It was just such a weird realization when I was like, oh, they don't actually know anything about financial statements. I actually know more than them. Like if there's just a weird moment where you're like, these people aren't anything special. They're just humans just like me.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like I've had lots of those moments too where I'm like, "Oh, yeah." And not to say that there aren't people that I think in those positions that I'm like, "Wow, like they have a lot of wisdom or experience or whatever that I could learn from." But I think the majority of the time you look at it and they're also like most of them don't necessarily want to be touted as having all the answers or knowing everything because they know that they are just people too. And and so I think like don't be disappointed by that, I guess, to some extent. Just like offer some grace to your leader. And also if you are a CEO or an executive or supervisor or whatever, like you probably are like, yeah, I totally feel that. And part connected to this discussion is that we were saying is like, in order for you're probably going to grow into your career. So, you might, in order to grow, uh, you might have to step into opportunities that you don't feel totally ready for and that you might be completely terrified of, or you might be looking at what you think gets you to the C-suite position and you're looking at like your own resume and thinking like no way, like there's no way I could do that. Or I'm not ready for this. I have to get to this measure of success, or I have to have accomplished this thing or whatever. And sometimes there are people who are looking across at you and saying, like, no, like you'll be fine. And you're like, "What? What are you talking about?" And you probably will be fine. Hopefully, you do have good leaders who can kind of help, like, nurture you a little bit and support you and help you grow, but, like, there's gonna be things that you don't know how to do as you grow into your career, and that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, yeah. I love that tie-in that you did, Bethany. I'm just like, yeah, like even you might get thrown into jobs or positions or moments where like you're gonna have to like grow, and it's like fast growth, and you've got to learn something new that you've never done before. I mean, I remember for a couple years I worked in finance as a recruiter, and I had to like learn all about lots of finance stuff to be able to recruit people to work in those jobs. And it's like when they hired me, like I didn't know a single thing about that. I mean, I don't say a single thing. I knew like my personal financials, but like I had to learn so much to do that. And so I think that's a great tie-in of like, yeah, like we will all experience that, and just understanding that like that's how your executives probably got to where they are too. And they've had to learn things. And I frankly would rather have like a really humble leader who admits what they don't know and admits when they don't have any ideas than somebody who just tries to project false confidence and is like, that's what we're going to do. And then like really not know that that's the right thing to do. But yeah, both of those things can be hard truths though to accept, of like, because we do tend to put our leaders on pedestals. So the moment where they don't know something, like, yeah, give them some grace. They're just a human being, because it's probably going to happen to you too. If you want to grow in your career, you're probably going to have that moment where you're like, how am I suddenly the one everyone is sitting at the table and looking at for the answer to that question? What? Oh. Well, this has been such a good conversation. I feel like we could like keep listing these and keep listing these. There's just so many good ones, but anything that either of you want to wrap up with today?
Well, I mean, we always say people can really email us, but I think it is an interesting topic. So if you have thoughts on like what are career truths that nobody else tells you, I think we would love to hear what those are. Maybe it could be like a part 2 if we have enough really good ones. But I'd love to hear from you.
I'm going to second what Bethany just said. I would love to hear. And if we made a part 2 that was filled with all of your stuff, that would be so gratifying for me. So yes, please let us know.
That's awesome. I will third that. So the motion has been passed. Send us your ideas, send us your thoughts. And you can listen to the outro to get the contact information and know where to send your ideas, or just generally, if you have a topic you'd love for us to talk about, send it over. We try to keep these really fresh and relevant to what we're hearing from people out there in the real world. So send us things you're dealing with or what things you're seeing in your companies. We'd love to talk about it and maybe help you through some of that with your thinking. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for being here today and listening to the podcast. We hope the rest of your day goes really well.
Thank you for listening to the People Centric Podcast. We are so grateful for you joining us every week. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Also, feel free to share on your social media with everyone that you know. It really does help us. If you would like to contact us, I have put our information in the show notes. Please reach out anytime. We love hearing from you. We will be back next week with a new topic. Until then, be well and lead well.